Welcome to this first of a series of somewhat short topics on project management and how Custom Cabinet Planner relates to project management. Let's talk about infrastructure, typically defined as transportation networks, communication systems, utilities, healthcare, and even educational institutions. From a national perspective, these things are the foundation on which all other things are built, and without them, we would not have the standard of living we have. Now let's talk about irreducible complexity. The term was coined by Michael Behe in his book Darwin's Black Box, and basically it says that a human eye or human sex organs cannot evolve. They either work or they don't. All the components have to work for the eye to see, or in the case of sex organs, all the components of each sex have to work to reproduce. A road without bridges is pretty useless. A bridge without roads is equally useless. A little closer to home, if you want to manufacture full access cabinets and you have a really nice edge bander but no way to machine the parts, you can't achieve your objective. You need all the machines required, not one or two key elements. In a cabinet manufacturing business, we seem to see the need for some infrastructure clearly, like our facility, vehicles, machinery and tools, our accounting, design, and engineering software. But one piece of the infrastructure that is often left out of this list of infrastructure is project management and project management software. The question we must ask ourselves in relation to our infrastructure and project management is what we have now working for us? Throughout my cabinet career, Custom Cabinet Planner, and Custom Cabinet Estimator for that matter, in its constantly evolving forms, was always a critical part of our infrastructure. And in my somewhat well-informed opinion, too many cabinet manufacturers lack this critical part of their infrastructure. Custom Cabinet Planner in its current form touches on every aspect of manufacturing cabinetry, from marketing and sales to installation, punch list, callbacks, and everything in between. If we take a look at nothing other than our dashboard in Custom Cabinet Planner, we can see how it touches on every aspect of the process and helps keep us focused on the main thing, which just happens to be flow. While we are looking at this dashboard, let's also look at it through the lens of a daily morning meeting. It serves as your agenda. But keep in mind that every team member has access to all of that data all day, every day. It's not a snapshot, but a constant feedback loop to all the critical processes throughout your plant. Everybody knows what everybody else knows. So right now I am on the internal page. You can see kind of the structure over here, Custom Cabinet Planner, version 7.1, and then we have an external page, which is kind of meant to be customer facing, and then an internal page, which is meant for your team. And then the admin section, which is usually for your eyes only if you're the owner, or maybe the owner and a bookkeeper or a CFO or something like that. But we're on this internal page, and you see a team button here. So we're going to go to the team page, and then we have two team members, and we'll just go ahead and open team member one. It doesn't matter which one, these are just samples. And this is in a side view. I'm going to go ahead and open this up as a full page. And this is team member one's dashboard. This could serve the purpose as your agenda for any morning meeting. Typically you would have one particular team member's page that you'd want to use for that, because you may not include all of these items on everybody's page. Each time you create or duplicate this page for a new team member, you would delete out of it any sections that you think they don't need to see. I personally would probably leave every section in for everyone so that everyone really does know what everyone else knows. So let's start with the daily triggers. And this is more of a personal portion of this, something they might do before they ever arrive at work. And so each one of these can be created automatically, or they can create them manually. I'm just going to open one of these up, and we'll just scan down through this. So you would rename this today's date, or if it was automatically created, it would do that. It would add the date into that timing. And you just have some various quotes that are kind of motivating them as they enter into their day, a devotion if they want to do that, with some structure around that. There's also a suggestion for each one of these areas with a little bit of instructions on that portion. Do your devotion. What are you grateful for? You can list out one or more things. What are you entitled to? Don't intend for you to add anything here. Nothing is the right answer. but we need to be reminded of that every day. And then what are our intentions? And these are pretty filled out with all the things you might do on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday. And you would just change your template to reflect the things that you wanted to do each Monday morning, each Tuesday morning, each Wednesday morning. They're toggles so they can be closed up like that. And then if you wanted to memorize some things, we have those broken down into spiritual, political, civil, and business. You could add any other groups, and then all the things you thought you might want to try to work on memorizing. And then your to-do list. And now I am going to open this as a full page since we can't see as far right and I don't want to scroll left to right. And opening in full page will probably take us back to the top of the page, most likely. And it did. So I'm going to scroll down here real quick to our to-do list. And our to-do list is each of these items in the dashboard is specific to the person looking at it. So right now I'm only seeing the things that are specific to me, even though they're all available. Because of a filter I've created here, I'm only seeing the things that are assigned to me. But we have this logic built in here, and this is a great part of project management, especially for the guys in the front office, sales, design, engineering, field measure, all those things. If I put something on this list, like double check the field measurements for a project, I want to answer these 2 questions, which gives us 4 potential actions. So urgent says I should delegate this to someone else. If I have something that says it is important and urgent, then it is do it. Now that might mean do it right this minute. You might interpret it that way, but you also might interpret it that I need to do this today because it is both important and urgent. And then if it's just important but not urgent, then I would want to schedule it, and then I would use these 2 due dates to do that. The DO due date is when do you intend to do it? The DUE due date is when is it required by the client or some sort of deadline you've been given. And then if it's neither important or urgent, you should eliminate it. You just shouldn't do it. Then we have a not to do list. Again, this is in the personal part. You won't see this when we start looking at the business dashboard. We have a not to do list. I think this is just as important, and these are things that I'm committed to not do. And then dreams and goals can be linked to your to-dos. So here's the to-do that is linked to this. Test goal number 1 is test task number 2. You can link those things together. So you might have a goal of, hey, I want to supercharge my car in my goal. And then in my to-dos, I might say, okay, I need to buy this thing and then that thing and then this thing. And I might do that over 3 or 4 or 5 steps. Contact these people, make these arrangements, that kind of thing. And then you have your big things. That's kind of just again, it's a personal thing. Big things in the news. 9/11 would have made it onto this list. You know, a big move in the stock market might make it onto this list, or any big news item would probably make it onto this list. And then all the big items of our family, marriages and grandchildren, things like that would make it onto that list. So that covers the daily tech triggers. So I'm back in my team member 1. Go back into open that team member 1. Go ahead and open that as a full screen right now. And we'll go ahead and close up the daily tech triggers. Again, this is something you would do personally, typically either right after you get to the office or before you ever come to the office. So then weekly report outs. This is something you would do once a week, and where you place it in this list is totally up to you. I like to keep it kind of towards the top. But again, each person would have this. They would only see what they had entered. And then each week I would go ahead and open one in a side view. We won't open it all the way because we can just jump right back to where we're at. And so at the end of the week, every Friday, possibly, or every Monday, whatever you think is appropriate, you're basically coming here and giving it a date of when you're going to do that, calling it the weekly report, and then a date. And then you would put a date ending week here. This is going to say when it was created. It could be created automatically if you wanted it to be. Every Friday it would just be created and waiting for you to fill it out, or you could create it each time. Week ending. And then we have 2 team member fields. One of these is a database, and one of these is like your account with Notion, and you could use either or both. And then who are you reporting to? And this is using the database at this point because you might not have access to someone else's account. So you would enter whoever needs to receive this, whoever your boss is. And then the status, and I'll just go ahead and show you the options. So as far as what you're working on, is it on time, at risk, or off track? The idea behind this is I don't need any help. I'm good. Everything's okay. Or, it's not perfect, but I may not need any help. It's at risk. So up to the boss, whoever's above me, whoever I answer to to whether they want to offer some help or let me run a little bit longer to see if it ultimately gets back on time or goes off track. And then off track is I need help. Somebody needs to help me or we're going to get behind because what I'm working on is behind. And then to prioritize that. Now, some things you could be getting ready to go off track and your only job is to get the spider webs off the ceiling, but you've only been given a week to do it and you don't think you're going to be able to finish it in the week. Well, that's not a high priority. That's a low priority. So that gives your boss the idea of saying, okay, this guy is doing some landscaping or he's cleaning something and it's not something that is critical. It's not going to make it in the time frame we gave them, so it is going to go off track, but it's not a big deal. But if you're the finish guy and something is you're behind and you're not going to make your deadline and the whole job is going to be late because of it, we would want to set that at high. And you could have as many fields as you want in here to do that. And then you might request them to say, what did you get done this week? That's kind of the Elon Musk idea. What did you get done this week? And you just type in here, tell me what you got done, what you accomplished this week. Again, keeps everybody on track and makes them think through what they're doing. So we'll close up weekly reports. That's how that works. Continuous improvement. This is a form. And so it's a link. And I think, yes, you see it opened in another tab. I think you have the option of having it do that. So I didn't lose my place. It's just going to open this form in another tab. And this is for your team members when they think they have an idea about making something they're working on, whether they're manufacturing the cabinets, machining the cabinets, assembling the cabinets, finishing the cabinets, installing the cabinets, to come in here and provide a suggestion on continuous improvement. We don't want them to just be experimenting in any direction. They may be doing something, they say, this would be better if we did this, but we've already tried it and it failed. So we want to know this. We want to have them walk through this process every time so we can say, no, we've already tried that, or yes, that's a great idea, let's do it. So they'll enter their name, they'll enter a date, they'll enter their perception of the problem. What do they perceive the problem to be? What do they think is causing the problem? Again, making them think about that, not just spout out something that is really meaningless just so they can sound important. And then recommended solutions. What are you saying we should do to improve this thing? And then list at least 3 advantages to your solution and then 3 disadvantages to your solution. I've been doing this for years, and they were paper forms at my company. We didn't have this technology then, but I would find them in the trash can once they got these 3 filled out, and they're like, well, this is really not that great after all, and they just throw it away, and I would find it in the trash can. So this makes them think through it before they bring it to you. So that's a great advantage to you. And then our next area, close that, go to to-do list. So this is the same to-do list we saw inside of our daily tech triggers, but this is thinking more about our work day. And so we have this distinction between business and personal. Picking up dry cleaning is personal, but business tasks are here. And we would have that same Eisenhower matrix over here to the right if we were to open this up, and which would give us that important and urgent structure that really helps us think through before we put something on our to-do list. And we would review these as a team. Everybody's to-dos should be reviewed every morning. Make sure everybody's on track and moving forward and getting those things done. We can go and close this for now. And then the procedures themselves are the things that you have been assigned to do. And of course, in this sample program, everything's been assigned to me, so this is a ridiculously long list. Yours would only have the 3 or 4 or 5 things that you're supposed to be working on. But these are project-specific, room-specific, and are assigned to you so you can see what's coming up. And if we're reviewing this as a team and we see somebody has 30 things on here and somebody else has 1, maybe we can distribute the work appropriately. But in this procedures portion of it, this is your daily marching orders. What is it you're going to be doing today? What are you going to be working on? Or even throughout the week, it will give you a really good idea. And then the process is, this is our and on board. This is something that should be displayed on a screen somewhere in your plant for everybody to see, ideally. And this is the idea that Toyota had for what they refer to, a Japanese word of and on. This is a signal saying, is everything okay or not? And so you can see these are all the processes throughout our manufacturing process. This is the sequence of events we go through to actually produce cabinetry, to deliver them and install them. And so you see right now that almost everything is good and green except for design. Design has said, hey, I'm in trouble. I'm not going to be able to meet my deadlines. If somebody's going to need to help me if we want to stay on time. and the finished room has said, hey, I'm stopped. Now, we don't have, this is just a signal to say, hey, can you help? Go help them. It might be a machine broken down. It may be a lack of material. It may be something that someone can solve very quickly. Hey, let me run get that material. Let me call somebody about that material. Or, hey, I have a part that you're looking for. I have that. Letting everybody know that we're in trouble in this department. This is just the signal. The process. These are the processes, and they are used internally. But here we're just displaying them and showing this and on board. So fitting that lean process. Sales pipeline, for some people, this should be at the top of the page. The guys that are actually responsible for this, again, these just slide around. You grab that 6 dots and you can move things up and down wherever you think they need to be. And this is a super simplified CRM, so customer relation management. And the objective is to get new customers, to be filling our pipeline. And we really want these 2 columns to have, depending on what your win-loss ratio is, but if your win-loss ratio is, say, 30%, you're going to want about 300% of the amount of work. So if your objective is to sell $100,000 worth of cabinetry per month, you probably need to have the representation of about $300,000 worth of work in these 2 columns. And I guess really it could be even the combination of these 3. There's another column you don't see. We just have it hidden with a filter that is clients, people that are buying from you. That's the ultimate objective, is to move everybody from a suspect that they're not aware of you into a prospect. Your job is to make them aware of you so you can move them into this column, and then to move them into the qualified, saying they need cabinetry. We might find some people, and if we find a builder or a remodeler, they need cabinetry. They may not want your cabinetry, but they need cabinetry, so they could start right here in the qualified column. And if we find a house that's being framed, we might put somebody in here that's the owner, and ultimately they may say, I'm not the person you need to be talking to. You need to be talking to my builder. And so they would not move through this process. We would change to the builder and move him through this process, make him aware of us, and then make sure that he has a need. And then the objective is to sell them on our cabinetry and move them into it to become a customer. But this reminder of we need to have a certain amount of work in this column. And if we need to, I'll show you how we do that in the production schedule, that we could actually have dollars in here showing up. Right now we're just seeing zeros in there because there's no cards there, but what is shown here could also be dollars, and so we could put a projected value on the work that this project might deliver, and so we could see whether we have this $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 worth of work in our sales pipeline. And then the next piece is the job site status room process. This is a big part of keeping yourself busy, because a lot of the delays in projects come from us not managing the job site status. This piece right here, what's happening at the job site? We show up and they're not ready, and so we have this huge problem where if we'd have just been calling weekly for maybe about 6 or 8 weeks out, start every week, say we need an update. What's happening on the job site status? Are you going to be ready for us? So this is a peek at what's happening in the field and the reminder every day to follow up on these. Somebody needs to at least once a week follow up on these once we get close to actually going to be delivering cabinetry. And we do have in this column, this is purely about the project and the job site status of the project. And then over here, we're looking at the individual rooms, and we have the actual delivery date and where is it in our sequence of events. This one's at ballpark estimate and installation. This one's kind of, way ahead of all these others. For that, these dates are made up, so that's why that's like that. This should kind of be the progression, and most of them are of, you're going through this ballpark estimate, selections, engineering, installation, hardware. This one's out of sequence too, but again, these are all made up dates. But they're going to sort by this actual delivery date, having the thing that is going to be installed next at the top of the list, and the things that are the furthest out at the bottom of the list, so that you can focus on the piece that is most important. We need to be ready. We need to have the cabinets far enough along that we're going to make our actual delivery date and that they're ready for us. We're seeing the same projects over here. These are rooms for those projects, so we only see a few projects here, 7 to be exact, but we see a bunch of rooms, but they're all part of these projects. And so that's the job site status. Managed well will change your business. And now we have elicitations. Elicitations is probably a word a lot of people haven't heard before, but it's simply a word that just means what we need to proceed. It's a single word that kind of sums up what we need to proceed. So these are all the questions we have for somebody on a project. And so the first column is, who is the somebody? The homeowner, the builder, the remodeler, the architect, the designer. Who is this question directed towards? And then what is the question? And we kind of have a summation of the question. In this case, we're wanting appliance specifications. Here we need the selections. And what's the priority of this? How important is this, getting an answer to this question? And then, will it affect the delivery date? And I think telling our clients this, will it affect the delivery date? Yes, possibly, or no. No would be green. We don't have any no's, but we will change this one right here just for the sake of seeing what's in the list. So no, it's not going to affect the delivery date. That really gives a really good idea of where you stand, what's lacking. Every morning you're reviewing this, saying, what do we need to get for this project, for this project, for this project? And again, these projects are sorted by what's going to install next, and then what's going to install next, and then what's going to, right down this list. And so being on top of what you're lacking to proceed is an incredible benefit to your company. Next up, we have selections, and this is probably the biggest purgatory on the planet. We call part of our procedures, anywhere we have within the procedures, a place where we have done our part, and now it's time for the client to answer a question or provide us with some information, whether that's the builder, the remodeler, or the homeowner. These outstanding selections are usually the most likely cause for a job to be delayed. And so those delays, we call those purgatories within our production schedule. And the objective is to see this every day, make it very visual, color code it, so you can see all of these. There's a bunch of these. If I scroll right here, you can see there's a whole bunch of all the questions related to a project, from stain colors and glaze colors and sheens to door styles and framing profiles and edge profiles and wood species. All of those things are these questions. All of this answers would be green, but we start at need selection. They all start when you create a new project at need selection. We're waiting for you to do that. You can see every single one of these are at need selection on this job at the very bottom, this test room one's just getting rolling. They haven't even put any dates in yet. And so they're all set in need selection. On these others, we see that they're either green or we're still lacking that answer. For this particular Crevco Savoy kitchen, we still lack the answer for what edge bander we're going to use. This one's pretty well filled out. Here we're missing what drawer box we're going to use. Here we're missing the stain and the glaze. But we need to focus up here initially. If anything red up here is critical at the top of this list, anything down here still important, but not as critical. And so this gives us that every morning looking at this, what are we lacking? Somebody chase this information down before it becomes an emergency or a fire that needs to be put out. Let's go ahead and close that. I don't have a bunch of things open. And then material acquisition, kind of thinking on the same idea of we've got to order materials, and have they been ordered? So we're using that same, green, yellow, red. Everything here green is good. We don't have to worry about it. And so everything at the top of this list being green means we're good. But we still need to be chasing. We'd be actually here's where we would probably look first. And we're good here. Typically, we just want to have this reminder that, hey, you put these in a cart for some company, in this case, the accessories. So you've carted them maybe in your Hafla cart, but you haven't paid for them yet. And the only reason you would cart it and not pay for it is you don't need it right now, but you don't want to forget it. And so this is reminding you every morning you're looking at this and you say, okay, these have been carted and it's getting close enough to the time now we want to go ahead and pay for those so that they can be shipped. But we also have all these red items that's not been ordered yet. And the options here, we'll go ahead and click on this carded one so we can see what all the options are. And you can add any option you want to any one of these type pull down lists. So right now it starts at not ordered, and then it's in progress. We are in the progress of maybe creating the order. Most of the time you go straight to either carded or ordered, but you could use this if it's something that's going to take some time to be able to do that. And then it's either received or that it's not applicable. You see some of these items that there's no glass on these jobs that say not applicable. They don't have glass, so it's not applicable. These don't have drawer hardware. These are push to open probably or something like that. And so, or the homeowner's providing it, one of the two things. And so material acquisition, same thing. We're using this color-coded thing to keep us abreast of what's needed so that we don't get jammed up at the last minute because we're lacking the surface hardware, or we're lacking this finish, or we're lacking this Lazy Susan, or whatever those items are. And everything is accounted for in this list. Then we've got our production schedules. The production schedule is using what is referred to in all of these types of software as a Kanban board. So it's columns, and this is all of our procedures, the same procedures we saw earlier. So ballpark estimate, selections, estimate, field measure, design, check field measure, proposal, and we could just keep going left to right. One of the beautiful things about this part is you see right here, there's $22,960.20 of valued work. This is what the items, the rooms that are in this column, what we will bill a client for. So if we can get these moved, keep moving them left to right. Everything's supposed to be moving left to right. If we can keep these moving, we will collect $22,960. So this kind of reveals our purgatories. Wherever we see large dollars here, means possibly that the thing after it is our constraint. That's one indicator, is if a whole bunch of things are always in a column, then the thing after it is probably your constraint. Or this thing stalled and we need to get it moving. And we have this visual reminder, wherever and I don't have all of them open, you can see here that you have the option here to load more of the groups. And then we have even more areas. This one's also, these are all at installation, but that's one job, and all the rooms for that job is at that installation stage. And so that would be expected that they would all be there. But everything before installation is, we need to be looking at these columns that have a bunch of things in them and getting that stuff moving forward. We don't want it stalled. Go ahead and close this one. And we'll go to the delivery schedule. And of course, delivery is something that we always want to think in terms of a calendar, which is ideal. We don't really want to be thinking of it as a Kanban board. We want, when are we going to deliver this thing? What's our target? And most of these jobs are going to be way back because this is just a sample. Here's one. Back till we see a few jobs on the same month. See most of the weeks. There we go. And so that's, representing like this Chapman 114 kitchen. The kitchen is going to take 3 days. So really it's the kitchen and the kitchen island. You see that we're going to take a 3-day span for these 19, or actually 21 cabinets that need to be installed, and an additional 2 cabinets for the island. So within these 3 days, we're going to install 23 cabinets. We have 2 here and 21 there. It's, again, made up data. Down here, this is only going to take a day to install. This room, this room, this room, and this room, and then this room is going to take 2 days to install. And so that's just a super visual indicator to your guys when something is due, and then to kind of account for how long are we going to be there. We can install, let's say 8 cabinets or 12 cabinets a day, whatever your quantity of, depending on how many installers you have or how many install crews you have. But typically in a full access world, a man can deliver and install within a reasonable distance from your plant 8 cabinets a day. He can take them out there, bring them into the house and install them, and come back in a normal day if he's good. This would be a hard day. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 cabinets. It would be a pretty hard day for a good installer. This is an easy day for a good installer. He's only got 14 cabinets, but it is a kitchen. So a kitchen's harder than these other rooms because now you got crown mold and light rail and all those things. And so they might actually finish early, even though they got a little too many cabinets here. They don't have all those accessories that they would have in a kitchen. And here they would have a little more time. And so that's how the delivery schedule works. And then we have a punch list and callbacks, and I'll just pop into one because they're almost identical and everything. So thinking in terms of punch list is, we've gone out to the project, we showed up with all the things, and we started installing, and we were short something, or something got damaged, or anything like that. Something that needs to be done to finish this job. This makes it front and center. Every day we're going to review it. What do we need? But as soon as somebody adds something, so if the you can see here that we actually have kind of subcategories. So if we look at this La Grande job and we open that, we have a punch list for this project of these 3 things. And so as soon as the installer says, we're going to need another piece of crown mold, anybody at the plant, somebody in the finish room, somebody that could pull the molding, whatever, everybody's going to see what they need. Hey, we need some touch-up paint. Well, as soon as it's put on here, somebody else can see it and decide, okay, I need to get that ordered. We don't even have that kind of thing. Or we need to package that up and get that ready for them for tomorrow. We need to replace the diagonal corner upper door, so we need to make that door, that kind of thing. So this punch list is all the things that need to be done for this project. Let's see if there's anything under here that we can peek at, see if it's helpful. Typical things. But the distinction between a callback, so we need to install the appliance panels. Maybe the appliances weren't in, and so we got to come back to do that. So that's still lacking for this job, and it remains on this list until we get to the point where we can do that. And then callbacks, the difference is we're not done for one reason or another. This is the client has found something and said, you either shorted me something or something's damaged. Maybe we did it, maybe someone else did it, all those things. But it works just like this. This is a list of things that we need to do to get this job finished and to get our money. And so that's a key distinction there, that one is important because we want to get paid. So that covers all those areas that I think are really part of that infrastructure. And so let's talk about a couple of things here that are just beneficial in light of we're talking about project management and a piece of software that can help us with that. So one way of thinking of this is it can be helpful to think about our project management like money. Dave Ramsey is famous for saying, you will either learn to manage your money or the lack of it will manage you. So a similar thing can be said about our projects. You will either learn to manage your projects or your projects will manage you. And a whole lot of people are living in that reality of their projects are managing them. The bottom line is you can't outwork a dysfunctional business. And if you don't have project management, you have a dysfunctional business. There's just no way around that. You can't have a smooth running business without some sort of project management. And so the objective being to get these things in place. Harry Newhoff says, as organizations grow, complexity is the norm. Simplicity must be an intentional act. Almost everything your team members do in Custom Cabinet Planner can be done from their dashboard. And that's simple. Managing your production schedule on a Kanban board is both visual and simple. Managing your delivery schedule on a calendar makes sense, it's visual, and it's simple. To manage your project well, you need to manage your time well. And that must include some white space. Appointments should never be back to back. There must be a buffer between them if you want all of this to be visual and available at all times. Custom Cabinet Planner is the best solution I'm aware of. So as a final thought, don't go it alone, almost like an ad. As some of you might already know, I lead a group called Good Profit Group, and I think that we should never go it alone. We should always operate in community. So a great quote by Dr. Kerr L. White is, good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment. This quote makes it sound like you have to make mistakes to earn good judgment. But it is possible to learn from others' experience and mistakes and not have to pay the stupid tax that going it alone requires. Don't go it alone. Join Good Profit Group, join Cabinet Makers Association, join National Kitchen and Bath Association if you're doing more dealer type cabinetry. Don't go it alone. Do it in community. And then make sure that while you're eating that watermelon, you spit out the seeds. Not all advice is equal, not all advice is good, but wisdom comes from lots of advice and picking the best of that advice and building your business off of good advice from people who have experience and have made mistakes and learned from their mistakes. And that is a lot less expensive for you to learn from their mistakes. So I hope that's helpful. And there will be a series of these just kind of with some sort of topic in there, in this case, infrastructure. What is your infrastructure and do you have this project management and how they relate to Custom Cabinet Planner. Custom Cabinet Planner is not ERP software. It is not MRP software, but it does most of the things those things do, but it's a whole lot simpler, I promise you. So thanks for listening.